Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you had a
You-
good day.
Are you excited about your exams?
Oh, why would you bring that up? Why would you bring that?
It's
Why?
multiple choice. It's easy.
Okay.
Just don't bring anything with peanuts in it.
That's true.
Because I brought power bars. It doesn't say it has peanuts in it, but they knew, and they confiscated my power bars. I
First.
almost
Yeah.
died of starvation.
It is such a long exam. You didn't have anything else?
I did have, thank God I did have something else, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, man. Yeah, no,
peanuts, like come on, man.
I.
It's not a
Well,
kindergarten.
well, Bill, I guess you should have read the
Yeah.
instructions, the policy. Yeah, yeah. Missed that detail. So sorry.
I think I probably did. I just didn't occur to me that a power bar doesn't. It's a chocolate power bar.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, you'll be marvelous. Is it still down at the CNE?
The CNE, no, it's at one of those hotels
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah.
like,
You'll be fabulous.
yeah.
Don't you worry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your I appreciate your confidence in me. I need it. I need some of that for myself.
You're a smart cookie.
Appreciate it. Well, with that, we're just after 5. So I'll get us started. Hello, everyone. I'm Jodeen. I'm an articling student here at RIA. I would like to welcome everyone to Family Now After Hours. Today's topic is winning versus losing in family law. So just before we dive in, I'm just going to do some housekeeping things. So we'd like to just say that the purpose of this series is to discuss general information on separation, divorce, family law matters. And any information provided here should not be construed as legal advice. It's just legal information. And please, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A feature. You can submit your comments and questions. If your questions are more specific to your individual situation, it would be best to please call our office or a lawyer in your area to book a consultation to receive tailored advice. Now, another thing would be please stay tuned until the end because we'll share some information about how you can schedule a free 20-minute initial consultation with one of our lawyers, which is a cool perk. So, yeah, stick around. So I'll go on to introductions next, as start with myself, because gotta leave the star for last. So, as you know, I'm Jodeen. My legal journey began at Queen's University, where I gained hands-on experiences at neighborhood legal services clinic and the Family and Children's Services of Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington County, where I was able to also do some hands-on work there too and learn about family law, child protection, children law, and that all that jazz. So these experiences helped me to develop a foundation in both advocacy and client-centered work. Here at RIA, I've been able to work on collaborative files as well as litigation files, which has been an amazing experience as well, and given me a deep appreciation for the complexities of this system and the importance of finding balance and practical solutions for families. Now, as this is a bit of a myth busting discussion in a way, I think who better to join me in this myth busting exercise than Mr. Bill Rogers. So I'll tell you about Mr. Bill Rogers. Bill is a seasoned family lawyer and managing associate here at our firm. He his courtroom experience includes numerous motions, several full-blown trials, And he also had the privilege of winning a major family law victory at the Ontario Court of Appeal, amazing, in 2014. And that case is on, you can find it online. It's McConnell versus Huxtable, which ultimately prevented the imposition of a proposed 2-year deadline on property claims by common law spouses. Wow. When he's not practicing law, he loves spending time playing music with his band, Soul Custody. Bill, I had a terrible joke. I don't know if you like it. I think you might. Why not soul decision making?
Yeah, we have to rename the band.
Yeah, that's true.
Custody always was decision making about kids, but they renamed it a few years ago, and now it's
Mhm.
called decision making responsibility, which is better because now it actually the name is what it is. No one really
Mhm.
understood what the name meant before.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know why
mean,
they called it custody before.
yeah, it sounds kind of like prison language.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, access, custody and access, right? Sounds very um prison-like. Anywho, let's move forward. So we have a great topic today. And I'd like to say, like, well, I'd start off with family law is definitely unique in that it's not just about victory or defeat in the traditional sense. Instead, it focuses on success in family law is definitely more measured by fairness and cooperation. And most importantly, the well-being of the children involved, if there are children involved. And then by extension, that would be the well-being of the family. Um, so ultimately, we're gonna success in family law is dependent on the facts of the case. So what we're sharing with you right now is there it's gonna span a lot of different areas, and it might not be unique to your particular situation. But yeah, we're gonna provide you with as much information as we can in this short time that we have. And so I'll get started talking a bit more about success in family law. Um, So sometimes clients enter the family law system with a litigation mindset. And I think that's where the language, success or victory or defeat or wins or losses come into play. So yeah, they come into that mindset viewing divorce, decision making, property decisions, as a battle to be won. But family law tends to operate differently than other areas of law. Success, as I said before, is not about winning in the conventional sense, but rather about achieving fair and sustainable results. So if we even look at the legislation itself, the Family Law Act in Ontario, that's a legislation in Ontario. It is clear that family law is not just about rewarding one party and punishing the other. The preamble of the Family Law Act emphasizes the importance of encouraging and strengthening family roles, ensuring fairness between spouses, and promoting the equitable sharing of parental responsibility. In this context, success, therefore, is not about winning, but achieving workable solutions that allow both parties to move forward and maintain financial stability and effective co-parenting relationships. So, I mean, one example of this is like in division of property in the Family Law Act. It doesn't, it's not really about making everything totally equal, but making it fair. So the equalization process, confusingly, is really about ensuring that spouses can share economic gains and doesn't really focus on economic losses. So it's not really punishing one side or the other, or it's really about what contributions were made during the relationship, and how we can assess that fairly. Um, so yeah, what would you say about that, Bill? Anything to add?
Well, I think you said it perfectly, Jodeen. Um, and if I can just move to the next topic, it kind of ties right in with that. Um, there's actually a case that came out almost 10 years ago
Mhm.
from the Ontario Court of Appeal. And for those of you who like to research these things, it's called M versus F. And the number on that is 2015 ONCA, ONCA, number 277. And if you read that case, you'll see that the judge said there's been 20 years of social science literature saying that there's this thing called the winner-loser syndrome. I'm talking about parenting battles with kids here, okay? Um, and if you're in one of those, there's this thing called the winner-loser syndrome, and that really hurts children. It really hurts children if they think one of their parents won and the other one lost. And it's obvious why that would be the case. Um, so when it comes to what they used to call custody, and now it's called decision-making responsibility, um, if one parent gets sole decision-making responsibility for the child's going to see the other parent as unfit to even participate in decisions. And that makes that parent a quote unquote loser in the eyes of the child. And again, if you read M&F, it says this is really bad for kids. So what you want to do is not quote unquote win, but you want to try to get along with your ex. It's not easy, but your kids will thank you for it. So what you have to do is when it comes to, say, decision making, which is about healthcare, religion, extracurricular activities, and religion. Um, did I say religion already? Okay, education, healthcare, religion, and activities. Sorry, they don't call it religion anymore. They call it spirituality. Anyway, those are the major decisions in those areas. That's what it's about, and there aren't that many of those decisions to be made. Oh, thanks, Jodie. Um, so as hard as it is, you want to try to do that together with your ex. And if you can do that, and again, it's not easy, but if you can, your kids will thank you for it.
Yeah, so true, Bill. Compromise and cooperation is definitely the best way to go. And as Bill was saying, it's always in the best interest of the child if they are, and all things being equal, and all things being safe, that they have both parents in their lives. Um, so that because it's healthy, it's good for the child, and that's what the court will encourage. So, as Bill mentioned, best interest of the child is a standard that we hold in family law. It's very important. It's what, when children are involved, it's the basis of um everything that we decide. So that is, the factors for best interest of the child are found in the CLRA, the Children's Law Reform Act, and also the Divorce Act. It's also outlined in the Divorce Act, and Bill mentioned the specific factors earlier as well. Um, so I think what I'll talk about is that courts will seek to maximize contact between children and both parents provided it's in their best interest. So even in high conflict cases where parents should really try to focus on maintaining their child's stability rather than seeking to win parenting time, because that's not putting the child's best interest before your grievances in the relationship. And that's not beneficial to the child. Um, which, as we have established, is at the forefront of family law. So maybe some high conflict cases will benefit from maybe like a mediation process or some kind of negotiation where you are not necessarily in court from the get-go. Um, Maybe some out of court processes may help, Bill. Hmm?
Oh, definitely. And one of the topics that I've got here, Jodeen, I'll just jump down to it since you mentioned mediation.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. Yeah, mediation is always good. I don't care how angry you are or how terrible things are in the litigation. Mediation is always good to try. If for no other reason, then you get a lot of intel
Mm.
from the other side. There's nothing better than sitting in a mediation to find out what the other side's really thinking, and it's super beneficial. And the courts now provide mediation services that are geared to income, and they've got terrific mediators. And um, call your court and see. I don't even think you have to be in court to use it. So call and find out, and it's fantastic. I
Mm.
remember one time I actually argued a motion, um, uh, and won. It was someone wanted to take the kid to Germany, and my client said, no, kid will never come back. So luckily I was able to prevent. And then after I won the motion, the judge said, why don't you guys go and do some mediation right now?
Mm.
And I'm like, that's weird. We just did a motion. But they went, they agreed to go downstairs and mediate, and they actually made huge progress in hammering out a solution. I
Mm.
couldn't believe it. So mediation's always good.
Yeah. I've noticed that the best time to talk is when, of course, you're all together. There's so much you can get done when everyone's like, in that frame of mind to just get it done. So always take advantage of that for sure. Sorry, Bill, I definitely went out of order there, and I
How
believe
dare you?
I know, shame. Shame on me.
Do you
So
want me to go
sorry.
up to the legal principles?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That's what's next.
Understanding legal principles. Now, something I just told Sonia that she had a motion today. She did really well. And I said to
Mhm.
her, a lot of judges, they kind of form a gut feeling
Mm,
about the decision they're going to make. And that
mm,
feeling's, shaped by their knowledge of the law. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. But it starts a lot of times in the judge's gut. And then they find the principles to match what their gut's
mm,
telling them. And that's a good thing. And you'll never know this is occurring. So, don't worry about it. But it's just, there's more to it than just a checklist of principles. However, I can think of three common legal principles that come into play, and I'll just go over them really quickly. One of them is for decision making. Um, they it's better, like I said, to have shared joint. They call it joint decision making. Way better for the kids, but um, sometimes you can't do that. Like if one of the parents is, uh, I don't want to say the word crazy. It does happen. Okay. then you really do have to give it all the power to one person. And the test for that is whether the parents can communicate effectively. And if they can't, then ordering joint decision making is obviously a recipe for disaster.
Mm.
Okay. So that's one of the principles you'll see is can you communicate effectively? And if you can, then yeah, we can order joint decision making. We can do that. Um, so you'll run into that.
Mm.
And again, unless the other person's, completely out to lunch, it's much better to share decision making. Um, and a part of that test as well is you can't pretend. The court uses the word profess. You can't profess that there's no communication between you and your ex and then say, well, therefore I should get sole decision making. You
Mm.
can't do that. It's the oldest trick in the book. And the judge will find out it's actually your fault. You can't communicate. And that's not going to go well.
Mm.
So, yes, a lot of clients, Jodeen, I'm sure you've seen this, they come in and they want their ex to be killed in a public execution. Okay? A lot of people feel that way. They do. And I
Yeah.
don't blame them. It's natural. And what you want to do is try to steer away from that. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you try to do is share decision making about health, education, religion, and activities, and only
Mm-hmm.
major decisions on those. There aren't that many.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that, that's a good thing. Another principle you'll see is spousal support, which they used to
Mm.
call alimony. I think they still call it alimony in the United States. Um, anyway, spousal support. If you sacrificed your career to usually it's to take care of the children. If you do that, you have a much stronger claim to get spousal support because you've sacrificed your career for the kids. So that you'll run into that um, principle. And the third one I'll mention is it's an evil principle that some people think is ruining family law, and it's the 40% rule. If you have the kids less than 40% of the time over the course of a year, um, then you have to pay full child support to the other parent. But if you can bump up your time with the kids to 40% or higher, most of the time you get a discount on your child support, and it can be significant. So people fight about this, trying to get more time so they can save money, and it's awful to watch. Um, but you'll see that happening. And my approach, as you know, Jodeen, is share decision making, and you know what? Share parenting time.
Mm-hmm.
Give the other parent 40% because that also creates a winner loser syndrome in the kids. Like, how come I can't go see the other parent more? And
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to tell your kid, well, it'll cost me money if you do for child support. You know what I mean? So um, I always say you try to share the parenting so you don't have to worry about the 40% rule. Anyway, you'll see those principles pop up.
Yeah,
And
those are definitely the core issues that come up. I mean, outside of property issues, the spousal support, child support, and decision making and parenting time, and just there's there's a lot of tension that can happen between parties if they definitely come into it with that win-lose mindset and not centering these decisions around the around the best interests of the child. As you said, Bill, it does create that idea in the kids. It can create the idea in the kid's mind that, well, one parent is clearly a loser, and then you don't want
it's
to.
not good. I
It's
always
not.
say, Jodine, how many times have I said to you, love is the answer?
You have said that
And
many
it
times.
it's hard to say that to a client who wants their ex hung
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
public square. And again,
Yes. Yeah.
there is anger. There
There
is,
is a.
and when I
Mm-hmm.
say love is the answer, what I mean by that is the absence of hatred. That is my
Mm.
minimum definition of love. If you can
Yeah.
steer towards that,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
it's not easy.
Yeah,
You can steer toward that. Your kids will thank you. You will never regret it. It's not easy.
100%. And it doesn't help when the litigation process is inherently adversarial. It kind of does stoke those flames a little bit more, and add into that the the length of the court process itself, and all the documents that are involved. It can be quite taxing on both sides, and that can build up frustration, within your own camp, and then also you're frustrated with the other side, and it can be quite difficult. So I think it's important that we set the right expectations for our clients, and then that the clients understand that they also need to temper their expectations, because sometimes in like when you want to achieve a fair resolution within the family court system, it can be quite lengthy, quite difficult. And sometimes it is inevitable because, as Bill mentioned earlier, sometimes there are it's just not appropriate to go through an ADR method, or sometimes it is. So it really is about you working with your lawyer to try and determine which way forward is the best for you. But just be mindful that both processes have their pros and cons, and it really is about the facts of your case and the parties that are involved, because both methods will require some disclosure. When I say some, I mean lots. And so,
It's like
there,
I always say, it's like doing your taxes with a gun to your head.
yeah, yeah. So makes you feel so warm and fuzzy inside. So, yeah. So that process is very taxing on people, and
It's a living
you know,
hell. It's a living hell.
whoa,
And it
whoa,
lasts
chill.
for years. People don't get it. It lasts for years, these cases.
Yeah, it can. It
Years.
can.
It
It can.
does. It always
Yeah,
does. That's why, but it's never too late to settle. That's the cool thing. Even if you
that
go
is
to
the cool
court,
thing.
you can settle anytime. And there's nothing like being in court to encourage people to start to want to settle.
Yeah.
They've got great mediators at the court. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
That is so true. Because I I find that, when we're going through case conferences or settlement conferences with clients, and I think they realize how onerous the court process can be, and that this is but one stage of many. It does put it into perspective that this can be really lengthy. And when we're talking about lengthy, you're also talking about money, because time is money, right? So it's much better to look for reasonable compromises that um, really reflect the practical realities that you guys want to shore up and put in place for the sake of your children, if you have children, and then also, but for the sake of yourself, if you're, a couple without children that's separating, because you don't want this to be hanging over your head indefinitely. So yeah, um, it's
You never
expensive. It
get,
can,
you
yeah.
never get everything you want. It's
Yes,
not, a lot
yeah.
of clients think it's like a drive-through. Let's
Hmm.
see, I'm going to have sole decision-making
Hmm.
responsibility. I'm going to get some spousal support.
Hmm.
We can't do the public execution, as I mentioned, but
Right,
you
right.
know
That's off
what?
the table,
That's off the
usually.
table.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's not like that. So
So,
some of the mediators, they say the sign of a good mediation is when both parties are angry at the end. Both. equally angry because they both think they got ripped off, and that's a sign that it's somewhere in the middle, and it's you know what I mean? I hate to say
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's an
That
ugly
makes sense to me. That makes sense to me because yeah, it is a compromise. You're not going to get
yeah.
everything. And so I would say, Bill, how do you um how do you explain to clients that that they need to temper their expectations
Well,
a
if
bit
there's kids
better?
involved, the love is
Mm-hmm.
the answer lecture is usually pretty good because
Mm-hmm.
people are so disgusted by that idea that they have to try to not hate their ex. It gets them thinking.
Mm,
And a lot of times I'll say, I'll say to the client, why do we love Jim? Like, let's say I'm representing the mom.
yeah.
Why do you've heard me say this to people. Why do we love Jim? Because he's their dad.
Mm,
Kids don't feel the same way about Jim as you do, and that's a good thing. So you need to try to steer yourself as much as you can away from hatred and towards what I call love, which is the absence of hate. Try to do that. It's a lifelong journey, and
mm-hmm.
it pays off tenfold. And
Mm-hmm.
if and when you get in front of a judge, you'll see they think the same thing. They don't want to hear about how awful Jim is. They don't want to hear it.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like that's what you'll find. So
Yeah,
that's one way I do it is to try to get people thinking. And again, it's not easy to do, but
for sure.
every ounce of effort you make to try to steer towards love and away from hate will pay off tenfold. You will never regret it.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have children, you are tied to this other person who was your partner or the other parent of your child for, the duration of your child's life, which is hopefully going to be beyond yours. So, you have to have a working relationship with them.
Well, that's right,
Um,
Jodeen. And I always say, and it's the oldest, like it's a cliche. Family lawyers always say this. Imagine your kids graduating from high school. The kid's 7 right now. Eventually, they're going to graduate. You want to be there with your ex and not um, be in an atmosphere of hatred with your ex on that day.
mhm.
You want to be civil
Yeah.
and at least, and maybe more than maybe even getting along good. And the kid will benefit from that.
Mhm.
But again, it's super difficult to do. It's that, I get that, but that's what the courts want to see.
That's what the courts want to see.
Yeah.
Now, Bill, I think this is something that I mentioned earlier about full disclosure in family law. So I'll move on to that topic. Um, sorry about that. I'm a bit all over the place. Um, so honest and full disclosure is definitely essential to family law. Why would you say? Well, because without full disclosure, settlements can be delayed, challenged, or even overturned. Orders as well. If you get a court order and it turns out that you were the other side was withholding key information about their finances, that could really change the equalization or the support element of things. Then that calls into question the original order. So hiding assets or misrepresenting income can lead to serious consequences. More importantly, disclosure helps both parties to make an informed decision. Fair agreements and resolutions can only be reached when both sides are bringing everything to the table. It's a contract, really. Think about it like a contract. You have to have a meeting of minds. You have to have full disclosure in order to put together a separation agreement, in order for the court to come to a decision, they have to have the full story. And yeah, if one party is dishonest, it's just going to escalate things to litigation because those are the kind of things that people end up fighting about. Well, I think that this person has this asset hiding somewhere in the Caymans, I don't know. And we don't get cases that crazy, but people might be hiding stuff that could make a real difference to the equalization process, as well as claims for financial support, spousal support or child support, sorry. And so it is important that both sides, sorry, disclose, because if it's end up being found out, it can reflect poorly on the parties, and it can impact the court's decision moving forward as well. So yeah, how do you approach disclosure? Because I definitely can say that I've seen where clients are like, but do I have to? Do I have to give them that? Like, you know? What do you say, Bill?
Well, Jodeen, that's another thing that clients hate to hear. It's not as bad as love is the answer, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And that is, you got to be 110% honest.
Mm,
Nothing to hide. It's that simple. And if you don't, like you said, the judge will find out. They
mm,
will. It might not be the first court appearance, but they will find out. And when they do, you're toast. I'm not kidding. So you don't do that.
mhm,
110% honest. That's simple. If the opposing lawyer says, "Hey, I want some documents to find out what you've got, whatever," yeah, here you
mhm,
go. Nothing to hide. I mean,
mhm.
it can get a little weird if you're trying to get bank statements from the 1970s that
Yeah, it has to be within
yeah,
reason. Yeah.
but 110% honest, and no one wants to hear that, but believe me, it's the way to go.
Oh, yeah, well, of course.
Just like
And
what you said, everything you said is exactly right.
well, thank you, Bill. Um,
As usual.
okay. Um, but yeah, litigation can get really granular when we start focusing in on, do I have to reveal this bank statement from June 2013 or whatever? For if it's relevant, if it's relevant towards what the other side is trying to prove, or what you are trying to prove, then disclose it. It doesn't make sense to get hung up on unnecessary things. Unless you can straight up say, like, you are asking for too much. This is
Sure,
ridiculous.
of course, but I had a guy once, he claimed he was unemployed, and his lawyer didn't tell him to be honest, the way I tell my
Oh,
clients to be honest. So we had to hire a private investigator who photographed this gentleman. He's a plumber. They photographed him going to a plumbing supply store that I think only plumbers go to.
yeah.
He bought so many supplies, he had to get a dolly to cart all the plumbing supplies to his truck. We
Just a
have it all on
hobby.
video. So you're telling me you don't work, sir?
No, it's a
What
hobby.
about, yeah. So, people do lie, and you don't want to be the
Yeah.
one doing it.
Yeah. And there are definitely legal principles that will apply if you
Yeah,
are
don't lie.
underemployed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, you're not allowed to be underemployed if you've got to pay child support
Child support, right. That's where I was
or
going with
spouse.
that, Bill.
Get a job, buddy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the court thinks it's easy just to go get $100,000 a year job. Go do it, bud. It's like, I
Mm.
can't. Well, it's kind of weird that way, but they do have that
Mhm.
power. The courts do.
Mhm. Yeah. So try yeah, like, don't hide it. You don't try to hide it.
Because if you
Because
do, there's going to be a guy with a camera following you.
yeah, hired by Bill. That's terrible. Oh my goodness.
That was
I hope
ugly.
everything worked out in that one, Bill.
That ended up being the case that went to the Court of Appeal and prevented the 2-year deadline from happening.
Wowza.
Bizarre case, yeah.
There you go. It's linked in the chat, so definitely
That's right.
read about it.
Yeah, I got lucky on that one, okay?
No, Bill. No, no. You put in the work. Let us move on to the big bad cost discussion. Ooh,
Controlling the costs of the litigation.
yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely, because it's not cheap. Okay. Um, People don't understand why it's so expensive, but again, there's a lot of stuff that has to be done by the lawyer,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of time to do it. And of course, you want to keep the legal bills down as low as possible. And of course, most firms do, and we certainly do at our firm. Um, However, a lot of it depends on the other side, and you can't
Mhm.
control what they do. So if they're gonna start lying or start being unreasonable, or, for example, say, you know what, um, I want sole decision-making responsibility for the children, even though there's no real basis for it. There's nothing wrong with my ex. We can communicate fine. I'm just doing it because I'm angry. Um, if they do that, it's going to cost. You
100%.
can't control it. You can't
Yeah.
control the other side. But absolutely, you try not to spend the client's money if you can help it.
Hmm. And so, one question I would like to ask you about is about, here we do collaborative practice. Um, and it is an out of court process that is most definitely less expensive than going to court. Could I don't know if you're prepared to speak about this. Sorry,
Sure.
Bill.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great process. I mean, the cool thing about it is both lawyers sign a contract saying, if we can't settle this out of court and one of the people wants to go to court, both lawyers resign.
Mm,
Um, and what that does is it takes the pressure off when you're negotiating, because this is not going to end up in front of a judge, at least not with these lawyers, it's not. And they want to get a settlement. So it
mhm,
really takes the pressure off. Um, and it's much cheaper and much faster than court. I mean,
mhm.
but you have to, I mean, the problem is you have to get along at least okay with your ex. Like if,
Yeah.
um, but it's a great process.
Mhm. Yeah, so in the collaborative process, it is the goal is, of course, to end up with an agreement that both sides come to and they agree on. They it is not a decision that's made by a judge who's for all intents and purposes an outside party. So usually in the collaborative process, you'll have a team of experts that will help you through it. So financial experts and someone who will help you with parenting, and then both sides are also represented by their own lawyer, and they'll want to include a mediator and or something to that extent. And if there are kids, you might hire a counselor of some sort. Whatever you need for your situation to make it work, that is what your team would be made up of. And so the collaborative practice is, as it says, a collaboration between the sides to come up with something workable for them. And that can really cut through the maybe secrecy or adversarial side of things so that you can really get to what it is that you want to achieve. What is it that both sides want to achieve and how you get there? So, as Bill said, it does require that both parties come into the process being ready to disclose, fully disclose, and ready to meet amicably to resolve this situation. And so So it might not work for everyone, but it is definitely there as an alternative to going through the litigation process and is uh, considerably more affordable than the unpredictable nature of litigation. Um, so yeah, that's my spiel about collaborative practice, and we definitely do it here at RA. We have some lawyers who do that here. So, Bill, I would like to talk to you a bit more about how emotionally complex going through a family law process can be, and how you have, I mean, you've shared with us before about how you use the love speech to help your clients navigate through this difficult time. Um, Oh, are there any other suggestions that you have when it comes to maintaining emotional balance throughout this process?
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, the love is the answer at a minimum just means the absence of hatred. It's
Okay.
not that high a bar.
Yeah.
Um, and apart from that, you know what? It's hard. Um, Divorce, especially if there's kids, is extremely difficult process. It's one of the hardest things a human being can go through, apparently.
Mm.
Um, and it can be devastating. And um, what you don't want to do, um, apart from falling into the hate trap, um, you don't want to fall into the anger trap. Um, one of my friends who is now a judge, name's Justice Akazaki. I don't know if you've ever been in front of him.
No,
Fantastic
I haven't.
judge, fantastic lawyer. I remember talking to him years ago before he was a judge, and he said, Bill, you can't act on anger. He said, if you make a decision based on anger, it's usually the wrong decision.
Mm.
And he was talking about in terms of
Mm.
litigation strategy, but yeah, I think it holds true just in general life as well, especially in family law. If you act out of anger and do something in the litigation that's based on your anger, it's probably going to be the wrong thing to do, and it's probably not going to get you where you want to be.
Mhm.
So you know, it doesn't mean you're not going to be angry. Of course you
Mhm.
are. If you weren't angry, that would be weird. Okay. So, and also hurt and all the other emotions that go along with it. And the idea is it's not realistic to say, well, don't be angry. Of course you're going to be angry. Of course you're going to have hateful feelings. Of course you're going to have that. The trick is to try to manage them. And the best way that I've come across to manage anger is delay. So you have the angry feelings,
Mhm.
the public execution desire, all that stuff, and you delay yourself from acting or speaking until you can calm down a little bit, which is extremely difficult to do and it takes time. But if you delay yourself and you don't send that angry text to the other parent of your children saying that they're an evil fiend, because that text is going to end up in front of a judge. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, it's going to hurt the whole situation. So you try to delay, and it's again, you're still going to be enraged. You're still going to be frothing at the mouth and insane with horrible. Your heart is breaking, and you're half mad with worry. All that stuff that's going to happen. You delay. You don't act on it. Don't put it in writing, and get your lawyer to do something sensible and healthy, and you deal with your anger somehow. Like it will um, reduce itself in time. And obviously, if you need to talk to someone or work out more or something, a friend of mine once said, if you're going through a divorce and you have a workout routine, double it. And that will help you.
Yeah.
But don't act on the
Yeah.
anger and the hate. Delay your response.
That is such a good point. I mean, not just for family law, but for life. You are so right.
And if you figure out how to do it, let me know, okay?
I know.
Because I'm still trying. No, but it does work. It just takes time.
Yeah,
It
it
actually
takes
does
time.
work, but it's
Mhm.
super hard.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, for me, I do end up writing a message. I start writing the message, but I try to leave it in my inbox for like a day or not my inbox, just sitting in my box for a day or whatever. So don't send anything in anger.
Exactly.
That's a good take. That's a good take.
And again,
And
it's a goal. It's a goal. No one's perfect. People are going to send those texts. People are going to do
Mhm,
things. You just try.
mhm.
You try to steer away from them.
Yeah, yeah. I think another helpful thing is something we mentioned earlier is just reframe. Reframe. What are we here for? What's the goal? Will this help the goal?
My
You know,
goal
the
is to get someone to say, I didn't do nothing wrong and it's all my ex's fault.
okay.
That's what most people want. And it
Yeah.
almost never happens.
Okay, so maybe I should say it differently, is who's most important in this situation, especially if there are kids involved? The kids.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%.
So is this frame it in the best interest of the child kind of mindset? Like, is this gonna be something that may hurt my kids in the long run? Is this gonna be beneficial to them? Is this gonna change how they can it get out to them? Is this gonna change how they see their parents? Or, like if it's not nothing good, you probably shouldn't say it. Um
Absolutely true.
it's what I that's
No,
my
you're
say.
right. And again, it's difficult to follow that advice, but it's excellent advice. Never
But
badmouth the other parent to the children. I mean, you'd be
don't do
surprised.
that. Yeah,
Not a good idea. It
not
just
a
hurts the
good
kid. That's all it
exit.
does.
And so on that note, I would point steer us towards the final topic, which is focusing on the future and working towards building stability and a healthy post-divorce life. Could you tell us a bit more about how you how you deal with that, Phil?
Well, I don't know how many times I've been in front of a judge, and the judge has said to us, uh, let's not look back, let's look forward.
Hmm.
And that's how the courts are geared in family law. A lot of clients, they do want to look back. They want to be vindicated. They want
Yeah.
someone to say, you know what? It's all the other person's fault. You're okay. And that's, again, totally natural to want that, but the courts won't do it for you. Occasionally they do. I mean, if someone's done something horrible,
Yeah.
it
It's
has to be
egregious.
addressed. But for the most part, they don't want to look back. They want to look forward.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not, again,
Especially,
it's not easy,
yeah.
you know?
And as we've been saying, especially when there are children involved.
Yeah, if
Like,
there's no kids, who cares? Let the hate go. Full on
well,
hate. Problem with that, though, problem with that is it'll take years and
resources.
you'll go bankrupt with legal fees.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not good
It's
to do
not
that
good.
either. But
No.
at least you're not hurting kids.
Well,
You're only
okay.
hurting yourself.
Yes, you're hurting yourself and your pockets and
And
definitely
people
just
they'll fight for years over money, no kids
like
involved. They'll fight for
yeah,
years.
we
And I don't
have
blame them, but you know what? It's better if you can avoid that. And it's always the cost benefit analysis. How much is it worth paying my lawyer? And how
yes.
much time am I going to have to keep worrying about this in order to get X more dollars? And there's a cost
Hmm.
benefit, and it is worth fighting to a certain extent for sure. But you don't
Hmm.
want to keep going year after year. And I've seen it happen.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, not
Yeah.
cool.
100%. And I think that's why it's important for the parties to be the individual to be well aware of their case and really just ensure that you focus on what the desired outcome is, one, but that you also are realistic in your approach to this case, you have to temper your expectations. Because it will change, things will change, and sometimes that goal will have to shift for the sake of compromise and the sake of settlement.
Yeah.
So I think that is us. That is it. Thank you so, so much, Bill.
Thank
I
you,
just have a
Jodeen. It's
few.
always good to
Good to
do these
chat.
things. Yeah.
Yes. Um, a few closing remarks. So today's discussion, I would say, made one thing, some things abundantly clear to us is that family law is not about winning in the traditional sense. It's much more complicated than that. It's definitely about fairness and definitely about the best interests of the child and compromise and disclosure. Those things were definitely important. So I would like to thank Bill for taking the time to chat with me. I'd like to thank our audience for joining us. Following this session, a brief survey will appear, allowing you to share your comments and suggestions for future topics you'd like us to explore. Your feedback is greatly appreciated.
And my name
So,
is Russell Alexander.
Bill.
I'm not Bill Rogers. I'm Russell Alexander, so you can comment accordingly. Unless it's a
Okay.
good comment, then I'm
Unless
Mighty
it's a
Moore.
good comment, then he's Bill.
Then
Okay.
it's Bill Rogers.
Yes. So please look now to take advantage of the opportunity for the complimentary consultation I mentioned earlier. You can contact our intake team at intake@russellalexander.com and provide the code Mr. Rogers to schedule your appointment.
Who came up with that code word?
I
I was
won't
never
tell.
consulted.
I won't tell. And
I should have been wearing a cardigan.
you should have. You should have had your mug, your Mr. Rogers mug. So registration is now open for our next
Mr. Rogers.
event. Um, our next event will be adultery, affairs, and spying. Ooh, spicy. Bill, you have some experience with that. You the
You know, back
the
in the
private
60s,
investigator.
in the 1960s, Jodine, before you were
Okay.
born,
Yes.
if you if you committed adultery, you would be punished in law. You
Yeah.
wouldn't get spousal support.
Yeah.
They
We don't
changed
have that
that.
anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all no
Thankfully.
fault now.
No fault divorce. That's right. Just dropping gems, just dropping gems, Bill, all the time. So thank you again to Bill for sharing his insights, and thank you all for joining. And please have a lovely evening.